I'm pleased to welcome Erlend, who's the director of ARoS Art Museum, and Elvira from Local Project from New York, who's filling in for Jake, that is, I think, feeling a last-minute pitch for a very exciting project. So Elvira was super nice to just fly to Paris last minute to be here with us. The project, so ARoS is the European Capital of Culture this year. And it's very exciting. And your museum, I mean, you've been the director since 2014, I believe. And your museum is very exciting. It's doing a lot of things with artists, but you also recently dedicated an entire floor of the museum to engagements, learning, experimenting with the artworks, and local projects that I'm sure you've heard of because they are behind the Cleveland Gallery one. You guys did also the 9/11 Memorial and a lot of different engagement experience, supported you in creating all these different digital tools to learn from audience and get your audience to learn about the collection. So I'll leave you the floor.
We're going to talk about what we did. We're going to talk about what we did with this educational part called ARoS Public. But we also want to talk about how come this idea grew out of the ambitions for the museum. Because ARoS is situated in Aarhus. It's in Jutland, in Denmark. It has 320,000 inhabitants. This year we will have approximately 1.1 million people visiting the museum. It means that we actually will be the best visited art museum in Scandinavia. But I think it's very important to understand how we actually are reaching these numbers. Because first of all, numbers are very important for us because it says something about of our relevance to the society. And second of all, it's important because we are private foundations, so we need a lot of money to be able to become a better museum. Our total budget, we make 75% ourselves, actually. But this is ARoS, or at least the building called ARoS, but the content is much, much more important. ARoS is an art museum. It was opened 13 years ago. But I like to describe it as something more than an art museum, because we live in times right now where you have a lot of polarization of the society. You have some big challenges and even problems, the problem with alienation, the feeling of not belonging, but also the lack of the middle ground where we can debate and discuss in manners that are actually fruitful. So what we're trying to do now is not only to be popular, but we also want it to be important. In everything we do, we try to approach with appeal, relevance, and integrity in everything we do. And I have to describe and tell you why we're doing this. Because, first of all, appeal says something about your breakthrough, your outreach. But appeal is also what you call a short-term investment. If you only go for appeal, then you become trendy, and then the trend will die, and you have no future. If you only go for the integrity part, which a lot of museums and universities go for, then you're only concerned about what you're doing, and not what you're doing is good for. Do you see the difference? And in Scandinavia, you see a lot of smaller museums, but also a lot of, you see the humanities at the universities are stressed right now. They're under stress, political stress, because they say you're not attracting enough students, are not enough audiences, and so on and so on. But for us, it's very important to try to balance the idea of the appeal and the idea of the integrity. Because if you're closing your back to the rest of the society will stop following you. That's obvious. But the relevance is the reason why. Why are we doing this? And I think we need art museums that are willing to be more than the traditional way of thinking art museums. I think we need art museums that are trying to be like entrepreneurs, not playing the game, but trying to redefine or trying to develop a new game. We try to breach out of our surroundings and the museum. This is actually going on right now, and it's a Japanese artist, Fuyuki Nakaya, and she's doing something which is a part of our first triennial. And the triennial spreads out through the city, and actually this is the size of the city, and this is actually the places where the triennial is taking place. We're going through non-spaces, we're using nature, but we're doing a huge triennial. It's massive, but we're doing it because we want people to experience art outside the museum. Because we know that a lot of people find art museums scary. Maybe they not quite feel comfortable within it. And I don't blame them, because very often art museums are authorities. We try not to talk to people, but try to talk with people. And I think that's a very big difference. Unfortunately, a lot of the art world strive for exclusivity through exclusion, through the way they talk about art, what kind of art they choose, and so on and so on. So when we're doing this big triennial outside the big museum, it's also a way to communicate the importance of what art can do and how art can play within the society. The impact of art and art institutions on societies will be more and more important for the future to come. So again, when we are proud of having 1.1 million people, it says something about us, about art, and how art can have and make a difference. Because again, we live in a challenged situation right now, and we have to describe for politicians, for sponsors, and so on, why are we doing this? Why do we need art museums? Very often when I talk to sponsors, I try to describe art like standing on a trampoline. If you're standing on a trampoline, nothing will happen unless you start putting some energy into it. And then you can start jumping higher, you can see having more fun, you can maybe do some tricks. But after a while, you will be able to see a little bit more of your neighbor's garden, and that's all art can do. But it's a lot, because you see a little bit more of the world. But the main idea is that art and art institutions can stress the importance of being active participants, not passive recipients. And I think that's the most important thing we can learn our audience or our visitors. So when we started talking about the future of the museum, we started talking about how can we involve in society, how can we change our idea of our museum ourselves. So we said we should do three things. First of all, we should start doing a big educational center. We did that last year. You're going to talk more about that, El. This year, we did the big triennial. I would say it's kind of a positive gesture. And in a couple of years, we're going to do an extension of the building, an extension which includes a big permanent installation by James Turrell, but where we make and create different kind of spaces that, for example, can be used for performance arts and so on, but where the experience, museum experience in total, is quite different from what you're used to at the museum today. So what we're trying to do is to link all these sequences together. The educational center is as important for us as the triennial, and the triennial is as important for us as the extension of the building. But they're all milestones. They're all milestones for us getting to where we want to be. My background, I'm an art historian, but my background is also I'm an art museum educator. And I was always so frustrated that when you're visiting art museums, the educational centers were always hidden away, or they were very small. So when we started doing this project together with a local project, we wanted space. Size matters sometimes. So we used 1,000 square meters, a bunch of money, and high ambitions to try to come to somewhere else. Because we don't just want to do more of what we've already been doing, we want to do something quite different. And we started talking with the local project. And it's not only a digital project, but you also have workshops, because we also start living now in in post-digital areas where people have the need to learn through their hands again and have a contact with the world in a physical way. But the mental fitness center, we're describing ARoS as a mental fitness center, but we're also describing ARoS Public as a mental fitness center. We wanted to create a place that you know will be rewarding. It will be good for you, but you have to fight for it. It won't be an easy go. It's like if you're going to an ordinary fitness center, it won't make any difference if you're lifting weights that are too light or if you're running too short and so on. So we wanted something that was really challenging, but in a fun way. I think during the project we also talked about the serious playground.
Thank you, Erlend. A series of installations for a mental fitness center, that's quite a brief. Pretty incredible, but also pretty challenging. And to give you a little bit of background and context about local projects, we are about 70, is my mic okay? Yeah. We are about 70 designers, technologists, architects, content developers, project managers. We're located in New York, and we're constantly looking for what we call meaningful innovation, even though I have a slight issue with the term. New approaches to storytelling, really creating moments for people to engage and to be there. We're building media installations, we're building exhibitions, we're also building entire museums like the Civil Rights Museum for the Equal Justice Initiative at the moment. We just opened the Fashion for Good Center in Amsterdam. We're probably best known for our signature pieces like the 9/11 Museum. Sound. Can we make sure that later we have sound? It's not so critical here, but later we need it. So we're basically displaying a collection of thousands of memories there, instead of presenting just one official narrative, which is a pretty different approach. Many of you who've been to the Cooper Hewitt definitely know our interactive pen. Visitors can use it to create their own personal collections, but also to make their own designs. Including patterns on steroids, like in the wallpaper room, and this is really what we call learning by doing at its best, and which is another principle that we're constantly looking for in our studio. We also developed the collections wall for the Cleveland Museum of Art, which allows visitors to browse over 3,000 artworks and create their custom tour through the museum. And also one of our crazy ideas where you make a face and select artworks from the collection through that. So Erlend liked all of this and wanted none of it. He wanted really for us to support a social space where art is relevant in a sense that it tells us something about ourselves and also that it tells us something about others. So together we defined 3 concepts for interactive installations, and 2 of the instances we used brand new technology that just came on the market, a transparent OLED screen. The whole studio was super excited. The future is here, Minority Report, yeah. But it also came with a series of growing pains, and it's in the meantime taken off the market. So ARoS is the only institution in the world right now who uses this technology. So go there if you want to see it. True to our prototype-first philosophy, we immediately started to build and test installations after concepts in our studio, but also reviewed it together with the ARoS team and really wanted to test if the concepts are actually holding up as real experiences and if they deliver towards our goals. Do they trigger unexpected insights? Do they create the sort of conversations and provoke the personal and intimate moments that are actually worth sharing? So our first installation that we also finally installed is the eye catcher, where we challenge the visitors to focus for about 10 seconds on a single artwork. We track the eye movement, and then we show you a series of hidden details behind how you look at art, like the details you focused on, or the number of fixations, which, for example, directly correlates to how well you will actually remember the image. And what is really fascinating, we know, depending on the study you trust, that on average, people spend between 3 to like maybe max 30 seconds in a gallery in front of a painting, but they spend on average over 4.5 minutes with the eye tracker. So on average, people do at least 2 different images and really spend quite some time there. They learn a lot about art by basically learning about their perception, and they for sure will have a completely different relationship to the artwork when they later see it in the galleries. The second installation is the portrait machine, which we also call the art of creating. It's a 2 or multiplayer installation, which you better test in-house and make sure you have time for that. This is really the moment where the mental fitness center becomes physical. And the models, we have a model and an artist basically. The models have to use the bodies in order to match a pose, nothing you normally do in museums. And once they succeeded, they get a collage with artworks that overlay and relate to their portrait. And then together, the artist and the model can finish the collage and adjust and make it really theirs. Who's that on the right? What was really most touching for us to see, and the days after the official opening, we spent quite some time there and like see how it really works with the public. And it was so amazing to see how it really engaged absolutely everybody. So we had the youngsters that went completely crazy once they found out how to use the freeform mode. But we also had the mature really having a good time and maybe taking it a little bit more serious. But also those who often don't have the access. And these were the moments where that made us really proud and happy about the work. And for me personally, it were really the scenes like this, which is the daughter of our wonderful Marianne from ARoS. Those moments were my compensation for all the nights. So the last installation is a recording booth, where visitors are invited to select an artwork and then comment on it. This can be very intimidating, like the perfect scenario to make a total idiot out of yourself. But they are prompted really by questions that basically turn the whole conversation into a personal one. So it's less about the artwork, you use the artwork as a trigger to have a personal conversation. And we definitely are all experts about ourselves. So we wanted to provoke the kind of light-hearted conversations that are smart fun, which was part of the brief from Erlend, and we wanted really the people to basically, like, first and foremost, discover something about each other. And we had the big pleasure to test our concept just before the opening with the artist herself, Joanna Vasconcelos and Erlend.
So what I'm wondering is what kind of sound will this chopper make? Can you try to make that sound?
A sound? I think I know. La 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 la. A Lady Gaga song, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
It's a Lady Gaga.
Yeah, but also
thing.
the sound of the feathers.
No. There would be the la 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 la.
A bit intimidating.
Yes, I think so.
And the visitors also get a little gift takeaway, where we basically took speech-to-text technology to synthesize the conversation with some surprises in them. And last but not least, the last output station, where we again used the transparent OLED in order to overlay the artworks with the video recordings, so the visitors can basically listen to the conversations while they're standing behind the artwork. And before I show you the final video, I would really like to use this opportunity to thank Erlend, especially for really empowering everybody who is working with him by having an incredibly clear vision and true leadership in that, but just giving an incredible amount of trust and freedom to everybody he's working with. And I have probably never experienced that in that amount before, and it was a very beautiful collaboration, but also for having really the courage to disrupt all the rules in order to fulfill your mission to make art relevant beyond the ivory tower. Thank you for that. And without further ado, I would like to show you a little video at the end that summarizes what we've created together at ARoS Public.